You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Armchair Cricket Podcast, a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. We are recording this episode on the day New Zealand won against England in the first Test match between the two teams. So there have been a lot of Test matches going on in the last few days, a lot of things to catch up to. So let me welcome my co-host Ajit. Hello, Ajit.
Hi Giri, how are you doing?
Don't ask. Been quite busy these days.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't know, man. There have been, I think, 3 or 4 matches that have gone on in the last a week or a week and a half. Unbelievable amount of Test cricket. What do you think?
It's a welcome thing as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. I think, tweeting one of these days that, one of the perfect days for us, at least those of us living in Central European time, was about to begin because, you know, you had something starting around 11 p.m. and then, officially the time of Test cricket ended like next day after midday. So, around 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. So that's like a
Mm-hmm.
very ideal thing as far as a Test fan is concerned.
Mm.
So you can do nearly 18 hours of cricket. So that's very nice, right? So yeah, I mean a lot of Test cricket, and yeah, it was also interesting. Some of these tests were a bit one-sided, but all in all, as Test match fans, we would be very happy to see no matter one-sided or not. So
Mm.
I think let's begin with the India series, Giri. So between our two episodes, we saw that two tests were played between Bangladesh and India. So one was played, the first test played in Indore, and for a change, in both these tests, the away team, Bangladesh, won the toss. But it looks like, it wouldn't have made much of a difference, or they couldn't really make the most of the toss that they won because in the Indore match, they won the toss but could not capitalize. It was a spicy sort of a pitch, and probably the batting first was a very brave decision on that pitch, and it backfired, and they were 150 all out with Mushfiqur Rahim making a fighting 43 and then Mominul Haq 37. But once that partnership was broken, there was not a lot else going on in that 11. Liton Das made 21 and Mahmudullah had a very quiet series for a change. I mean, one would expect that a senior player like him would take some, load on his shoulders with Shakib missing, but unfortunately that was not to be. It was all about the Indian faster bowlers in this series. So the first test was the exception where, Ashwin the spinner took 5 wickets, 2 in the first innings and 3 in the second. But outside of that, all the wickets that fell in the series went to the faster bowlers. So in this specific test, once India restricted Bangladesh to 150, Mayank Agarwal took upon himself to, outscore Bangladesh. He made a 243. So it was a very measured innings. He looked completely in control, and he looked to be a master of the conditions because he hit 8 sixes to go with his 28 fours. He was well supported by Pujara, who made 54, and of course Rahane 86, who missed out on 100, one felt, and Jadeja finished with a 60 not out. So it looks like, in this 11, given both Jadeja and Ashwin batting, Jadeja has become a constant number 6 batter. They probably won't go for a sixth batter in this 11. And then Ashwin, will probably bat at 8 or 7, depending on how the 11 unfolds. So India finished with a very strong 493 for 6. Abu Jayed, the seamer, took 4 wickets for Bangladesh. But when it came their turn to bat again Mushfiqur made a fighting 64 and Liton Das 35 and Mehdi Hasan 38. But apart from that, not a lot to write home about from the Bangladesh batting, and they were 213 all out. So that gave India a victory by an innings under 130 runs. So a huge win for Giri, for India. So I don't know how much of it you were able to follow, Giri.
Very little. I, for one, was actually surprised that Bangladesh opted to bat first. And like you said, it was a spicy bit of a wicket, and I think India didn't mind bowling at all.
Mm, mm, mm.
So the score 150 all out kind of suggests that Bangladesh did not have the batting skill to combat the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Indian fast bowling attack, this is probably one of the best we have ever had. in
Right.
quite a long time, I think. If you think back, when did we have three bowlers who were, I think at least two of them were 140 plus bowlers, Umesh Yadav and Shami.
Mm, mm.
And we still have Bumrah waiting on the wings to come back after his recovery. So it looks fantastic. Um, yeah, and Jadeja doing his part, right? I think he's also doing well with the bat these days. Ashwin is now demoted to number 8 in the batting lineup. That's
Uh-huh.
yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't call it demotion, but that's his place right now.
Right.
And I always thought Ashwin was a better batter compared with Jadeja, but Jadeja has improved a lot over the years.
Indeed.
Um, but apart from that, if you look at the bowling attack, I think just like you said, it's majority of the wickets went to the seamers. And what is happening to all these Indian wickets, Ajit? What is happening to them? Is it just that, I mean, is the surface so conducive for fast bowling, or is it just the skill level the Indian bowlers have at the moment, or the lack of skill, the Bangladeshi batsmen have? What do you think about it? Do you think there is a big gap?
It's a combination, I would think, because look, for example, if you look at the second innings of the first test, the way Shami bowled will stay with you for a long time if you saw it, because the way he dismissed Mominul Haq and Mohammad Mithun and also Mahmudullah, it was quite excellent bowling. And he's usually a better bowler in the second innings of a
Yeah.
test, Shami. He's shown that. And around that time, I remember Dale Steyn also, tweeted saying that probably this is the best second innings bowler in the world at this point in time, right? So, I think it's a combination of all of the above. The pitch that are prepared, no, the pitches that are prepared are not, doesn't have to be very spin conducive. It can be very neutral, or if anything, can also favor the faster bowlers. And the spinners have the quality to still make a presence on such a pitch in India, right? That's not a problem. And specifically, it looked like, given how well the Indian fast bowling was being or performing, I think the pitches were, the curators are given a free hand. They were told, prepare a pitch however you want. We don't really mind it. It doesn't have to favor spin. On the other hand, it could be another tactic where, in order to take out the left arm spin variety, usually that Bangladesh bring in plenty, probably they went in a bit heavy in terms of pace, so that, anywhere pace bowling is clicking, so sort of they played to the strengths to completely take out the spin contingent of Pakistan for Bangladesh, and it sort of worked, right?
Yeah.
Also, there was a bit of the opening top 3, top 4 did not really apply themselves as well as they could have. For example, in the first test, it was weird to see Mushfiqur Rahim bat at 5 throughout. I don't know what was the thinking there, right?
Yeah, also Mahmudullah batting at number 6. What's happening there? I mean, I always thought your best batsman should probably bat at number 4, followed by number 5, who is more experienced. And I mean, I think it happened in both the test matches, as we'll see in your next coverage. But I think the Bangladeshi think tank may have missed a point here again. And I think it really shows that Shakib is missing in the side. I think he had such a huge presence. He's sorely missed, unfortunately, for them. But talking about batting again, just coming back to India's batting lineup, and what a fantastic double century that Mayank Agarwal made there. I think he idolizes, or I read somewhere that he idolizes Virendra Sehwag when he comes out to bat. And he kind of played a similar innings. If you look at his strike rate, it was 70 plus 73, I think, for the 243 runs that he scored. And it was a very quick innings, right? So came off 330 deliveries. And Ajinkya Rahane is also amongst the runs, so it should be very good for the Indian batting, because he always does well overseas. He missed out on a century. He made 86 in this match, but I think it was good for him as well. And I remember seeing a graphic on television when I was watching the highlights. They had some figures come up there on the screen which showed who was the highest run getter amongst the Indian batters. And up there at the top was Mayank Agarwal, and then in the second position was actually Ajinkya Rahane. And Kohli was probably at number 4 after Rohit Sharma. I can't remember who was number 3 and number 4, but Kohli was down there in the middle somewhere. So it's amazing to see, different batters clicking. And it's not just Virat Kohli or Cheteshwar Pujara who always have to score the bulk of the runs. I think Rohit Sharma batting up the order has done a lot of good for Indian batting. I think, when he's going, when the going is good, I think there's no better player to watch. That languid The stroke play reminds me so much of Inzamam ul Haq. Yeah,
Indeed.
fantastic. Yeah.
Indeed. No, he totally bossed the conditions, no two words about it. But look, when it comes to the imbalance, definitely the faster bowlers from the Indian team were really, really, very effective. And I think even if the teams had batted the other way around, the result would probably still have fallen in India's favor, given how effective the Indian fast bowling trio was, right? And with all due respect to a certain Mr. Gavaskar, this is probably the fastest and probably the best Indian fast bowling attack there ever has been, right? And also with all due respect to everybody, Lal Singh to Kapil Dev to everybody down the years, these trio of really fast bowlers really makes a difference.
Yeah.
You have Vishant Sharma's experience and you have the raw pace that Umesh Yadav and a little bit of unpredictability that Yadav has, and of course Shami's mastery in the second innings. So that's a terrible or a terrific combination depending on how you look at it.
And one more thing I want to add here, the role of bowling coach Bharat Arun. I think he has done a tremendous job in bringing the skill level and also the performing, the performance of all these bowlers to another level. I also heard Ishant Sharma talk about a new delivery that he has added to his repertoire. The leg cutter to a right-hander or an off-cutter to a left-hander. And Bangladesh have 3 to 4 batsmen in the top order, and he troubled all these batsmen bowling around the wicket. And in fact, he was forced to bowl around the wicket because he was running on the danger area when he was bowling over the wicket. So he was forced to bowl around the wicket. And apparently during the next session, I think in between the second and third day when they were practicing after the end of the day's play, Ishant Sharma developed this ball talking to the other bowlers like Shami and also the coach, and he used it in the Bangladeshi second innings, and it was effective, fantastic. The ball just comes in. He bowls it with a very similar action to Stuart Broad's. Have you seen how Stuart Broad bowls that leg cutter? Especially the deliveries which got David Warner out repetitively. Do you remember that? So it's quite similar to this. It's fantastic. Normally, Ishant Sharma's ball goes away from the left-hander. It pitches and then swings away. But this one just holds its line. It's just a wobble seam. So these guys are doing so well. I think it's fantastic. And Umesh Yadav, I have to say, has a bit more control now, and he has that natural outswinger going for him, and he also makes the ball hold its line. And then you see dismissals like I think it was probably Mushfiqur Rahim. No, that was Mohammad Shami. I can't remember which one. Yeah, but it's I think to sum it up, Indian bowling attack is fantastic at the moment.
Indeed. Moving on, they went to the PAK Test, the test in Kolkata, and it was a welcome change that they were able to play day-night. And of course, the mastery of the Indian fast bowling continued. They took every wicket that fell in this test, all 19 of them, in fact, right? So not only that, they were quite menacing. So, Liton Das had to retire hurt, and then also they knocked, I think, Mohammad Mithun on the head. So not Mohammad Mithun, I think it was Naeem Hassan. He took a blow, a sickening blow as well. In fact, 2 people were really, really, badly hit on the head. So this bowling attack was quite effective. So Ishant Sharma taking a 5-hour in the first innings of the second test, and Umesh Yadav taking a 5-hour in the second innings. And these were really fast. I mean, in certain instances, I looked like when I was seeing it, it looked like the bowlers were so fast, and maybe there were some visibility issues. I don't know. Some of the Bangladesh batsmen seemed to back away when the ball was being delivered, almost, right? So it was very weird to see that. But all in all, they had literally, what they used to say about the 80s West Indian fast bowlers. The batsmen used to really fear for limb and life. It almost felt like that. It's weird to see in the modern day cricket. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but 106 all out with 2 people struck on the head, 1 concussion substitute being introduced. All of those shows that this actually happened. I mean, they were forced to introduce Mehdi Hassan Miraz in place of Liton Das because they did not have a batsman, and Liton Das being a batsman meant a like-for-like substitute. Mehdi Hassan Miraz could not bowl anymore, right? They were forced to bring him in. There was no other batter in the squad that could take his place. That's how it had become, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
think
then, yeah, go on.
no, I think there was another concussion substitute, right? In the
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
But I was going to say that these guys, the Indian bowlers, bowled short pitch deliveries at Bangladeshi batsmen, apparently because in the evening session the ball was a bit wet due to the dew and it was not moving so much in the air. So they were kind of forced to, bowl in a different way. They were bowling it short because they just wanted to cause trouble, scare the batsman basically, and they succeeded, right? So yeah,
Well, I
go on.
mean, they did succeed because, when you look at the 30.3 overs, this is the lowest number of overs taken in a completed innings in India, right?
Mm.
And that too in the first session of a, pink ball test. That was very nice to see. So again, also Shami took 2 wickets and Umesh Yadav 3. And I think Ravindra Jadeja was used once for, I think, Shami to change ends, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how complete the domination was. And when it came their turn to bat, so there was not big starts from the openers from India. But Pujara laid a foundation with 55, and then Kohli, who had missed out in the first test, made 136, came good. This was his 41st international 100, and he's actually equaled Ponting's record. Ponting held the record for the most number of international hundreds, and Kohli has gone on to equal it in less than half the number of innings. So that's quite something, and he still has 3 or 4 good years ahead of him. So we'll see. Maybe he'll go much higher, right? And then Rahane made 51. He also, Rahane and Pujara, you could expect one of these could have converted it to 100, but both of them had good innings. But given Kohli making a big 136, and after he got out, there was sort of a collapse, and by then the ball was doing substantially quite a lot. So we saw that Abu Jaid and Alamin Hossain and Ibadat Hossain were also able to extract quite a lot of movement in the air. Seeing this very shrewdly, even though the total did not look very tall, Kohli called his batsman in, and that proved to be the right move because Bangladesh top order again collapsed, and they lost the top 4 very cheaply before Mushfiqur Rahim and Mahmudullah decided, we are going to dig in now. We're going to dig in, and they made sure, there was some fight. But again, Mahmudullah had to retire hurt. This was unfortunate. It was more like he injured his hamstring and couldn't come out to bat again. And then on the next morning, so it was effectively a 2-day test. But on the third morning, India took just 10 overs or 11 overs and they completed another test match victory. It was an innings victory. So this again is a record. So apparently this is the first time in the history of the game where any team has had 4 consecutive innings victories, right? For 130, 140 years of test match cricket, this is a wonderful, wonderful record. And India is able to do it at home, that too led by their faster bowlers. Who would have ever thought of it, Giri, a year ago?
Nobody would have even dreamt of it, I would say. At least not growing up. While I was growing up, I never thought this would happen. We usually saw Anil Kumble was the match winner for us when we were growing up, right? Or Javagal Srinath, or to some extent
Well,
Venkatesh Prasad.
both were fast bowlers, right? Kumble and Kumble. But yeah,
Yes, obviously, yeah. You're right.
right. Shami bowled just 8 overs in the second innings. And, in the second test, they were overall 7 overs of spin.
No, I think Indian bowlers were a bit expensive in the Bangladeshi second innings, mainly because Mushfiqur Rahim and Mahmudullah, before Mahmudullah retired hurt, they played a fantastic counter-attacking partnership. I think they scored very quickly. And also because I think they just wanted to show themselves as well as to the world that they can try and put up a fight. In the end, it was not enough, unfortunately for them. And people getting hit. I think the Bangladeshi batsmen were hit on the head like 5 or 6 times in this test match, if I'm not wrong, on the helmet,
Mm-hmm.
flush on the helmet. So it's not a nice sight. And there have been questions raised now about the visibility of the pink ball and if Bangladeshi batsmen were actually equipped with the right skill set to handle a short pitch delivery. There was a lot of debate on air as well, especially with somebody like Sunil Gavaskar, of course, who has a lot of things to say, right? So he kept saying that concussion substitute is not a fair way to handle this. He thinks if somebody gets hit on the head, yeah, sorry, but he doesn't have the right skill to counter a short pitch delivery, and that's how it should be. If somebody getting hurt, getting a broken finger or a broken arm, they don't get a fracture, whatever, broken hand substitute, for example. right? So it should not be the case apparently, according to Sunil Gavaskar. There was a lot of debate, lively debate on air. But I think I still believe concussion substitute is the right thing in cricket. The only thing that needs to be done is maybe they need to have a look at the rules and regulations again, so that people don't misuse it. I think we mentioned this in one of our earlier podcasts when this was introduced in July in the first Ashes test match, right? But I mean, it remains to be seen, I guess, whether this was a good thing. But all in all, I think the pink ball test match drew in a lot of crowds. I think we almost had full house every single day, Friday, Saturday, and also Sunday morning. And people flocking in such big numbers. Fantastic advert for test cricket. But will it continue like this, or was it just a novelty thing? Something new people wanted to come out and see. Do you think this has future in India?
Yes. So, I mean, also it's subjective to which part of India it is played in, but I think going forward, the Indian audiences are much used to watching cricket in the evenings because of IPL and other, limited overs cricket. I think there's definitely an application in a country like India where, this is a good way to attract crowds, and maybe combining with what Kohli had earlier said, if you fix the number of venues to, 5 or 8, and you always say 2 tests in a year will be pink tests, and you sort of fixed it in a calendar earlier, so that there is a certain amount of anticipation as well that builds up, right? So this is definitely one of the experiments I would like to see continue as far as test match cricket in India is concerned. And most countries nowadays, especially in the southern hemisphere, go for a day-night tests like South Africa and Australia, right? So it's a good experiment to have, especially when cricket is played in the second half of the year. It's definitely worth exploring this thing. So all in all, this Indian team is on the up, and Annulis Mirabilis, right? It's called. So, but anyway, a great year for the Indian fast bowlers. So when you look at it, they've taken wonderful number of wickets, and long may the bowling strength of India continue. Once Bumrah comes back and Bhuvneshwar Kumar is also back in reckoning, there'll be 5 or 6 really good bowlers to pick from. And I'm really looking forward to the India's tour of New Zealand early next year when they'll be on good spicy pitches, and it'll be a proper clash of two very heavily skilled fast bowling lineups. Giri.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that. We still also have people like Deepak Chahar, who is on the back of this wonderful T20 form, and we have I don't know if Khalil Ahmed will be given another chance, but I mean, I'm just looking ahead to the future Indian bowling lineup because Umesh Yadav as well as Ishant Sharma, I think they're in their early 30s, right? They may have 2 or 3 years left in them. Yeah.
Right.
But it's a tantalizing prospect of having raw pace in your bowling attack. Always good.
Right. So that's fantastic. So going forward, if you were to discuss quickly the test match that happened in Brisbane, where Australia played Pakistan, and this again was a little bit of a one-sided test match with Australia winning it by an innings and 5 runs. But I think Pakistan played really well in the second innings for sure. In this case as well, Pakistan batted first. It was a good toss to win, and the right decision to bat first. But they couldn't capitalize, and they were all out for 240 in the first day, with Asad Shafiq making 76 and then Rizwan making 37. Yasir Shah showing that with some application even he made 26, so it's possible, right? If you spend some time. Azhar Ali and Shan Masood had actually done well in the first session, and they had taken Pakistan to 75 for no loss, but Pakistan team couldn't build on that. And when it came their turn to bat, Australia had David Warner, who had a point to prove. He had a very lean summer with the test matches, and he hit a wonderful 154, right? Joey Burns was really unlucky to make 97 and miss out on 100, but Marnus Labuschagne, or Labushkagne, however you want to say that, went on to make 185. So they had literally in the top 3, right? They literally made 400 runs, and that put more or less the test match to the bed. And Matthew Wade made 60, but all in all, with 580 runs that Australia scored, it was always going to be an uphill battle for Pakistan. With Pakistan's team, there was also a couple of interesting selections. They gave Naseem Shah a debut ahead of maybe Mohammad Abbas playing, right? Or they could have pulled Imran Khan out, but Imran Khan really did well in the practice matches, so probably they were influenced by that. And then in the second innings, Pakistan did really well. Finally, Babar Azam coming good and hitting 100, and Mohammad Rizwan making 95 to add to his first innings 37. So Shan Masood again made 42, so showing that there's a bit of fight. All in all, it was a little bit one-sided, but Pakistan definitely showed a lot more guts and gumption in the second innings. They nearly made Australia bat again. It was a very clinical performance from the pacers from Australia as well, with Stark, Cummins, and Hazelwood always among the wickets in both the innings. I don't know if you were able to catch some of the action on this test, Giri.
Very briefly, I saw some part of the opening partnership between David Warner and Joe Burns. So they basically made Pakistani bowlers sweat. They played very nicely. I believe Naseem Shah had his first wicket already, but it was a no ball. So I think it was probably David Warner.
Indeed.
Yeah. So it was very unfortunate. I think David Warner was not on a big score back then. I think it must have been 20s or 30s. So if he had got out, maybe things would have been different. Could have. Doesn't matter anymore. But Naseem Shah, I mean, what a prospect! Naseem Shah, as well as who is the other fast bowler? I forgot his name.
Shaheen Shah Afridi.
Shaheen Shah Afridi. Yeah, we all know that guy. Yeah, Imran Khan is not so young. But anyway, I mean, Naseem Shah, I just saw some of his deliveries. He has a fantastic action. I mean, he runs in with a lot of energy, and he has that very quick arm, I have to say. He has a very quick arm action. Reminds me of Shoaib Akhtar of the old. 16-year-old kid bowling 150 plus. Do you think that's possible? I mean, he's physically superior, I guess, to everybody. What do you think?
No, there might be these exceptional, talents. You have the norm where you have somebody who's a certain age and has certain muscles, but there are people who develop a bit early. That's possible, right? So also maybe there may have been some confusions. So, but let's not get into that. All I can say is we are told he's 16 and he's 16 as far as I'm concerned. And well, 16 or 18 or 25, I don't care. He bowled fantastic pace.
Yeah.
And what they have in this guy is a very, very useful prospect that they can take forward, and they can probably try and convert into a good bowler who can serve them for a decade or more, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at, and that was very nice to see, right? Yeah. But if he's really 16, it raises other questions. Why bowl him 16 overs in a test match? And so that's why I don't want to get into that, because that would be unusually heavy on our 16-year-old body, because of that they could only bowl him for 4 hours next day or something. So that could really be the case. So all that is a bit let's say a bit detailed for us to go into this episode, but nonetheless they may have found somebody that as you said, with 2 or 3 years of learning can become a Shoaib Akhtar and maybe serve Pakistan cricket for a decade or so, right, Giri?
Yeah, for sure. But the key here is the fitness level and also how they protect him, right? I mean, they should not play him too often in docile pitches, which are not conducive for fast bowling. They shouldn't waste his talent there. Otherwise, he may end up with some stress fractures or like a terrible knee that Shoaib Akhtar has had, all the years. I think without the injuries that Shoaib Akhtar had, still one of my favorite bowlers. I think he would have been an amazing bowler. I think another 20-30 tests more, he would have had 150 wickets for sure. 150 wickets more. So let's hope this guy Naseem Shah can get at least 200 wickets in test cricket. Let's start with that. Maybe let him develop. But it's all good for the next match. I don't know. Let's see. Let's hope Pakistan come back with a bit more of a fight and not play like they did in the first innings, especially.
Indeed. So it's going to be an interesting test. Even they're going to go into a day-night test as well in Adelaide. So that's going to be a very interesting test coming up as far as Australia versus Pakistan is concerned. The third test match that we can discuss quickly is the first test between New Zealand and England. And this was a proper old school test match, I thought. The test going into 5 days, and more importantly, it was very difficult to say who would win this test after the first 3 days, because New Zealand was slightly ahead, but they did really well to convert that to a win. So if we were to quickly take a look at the scorecard, England batted first and made 353 in their first innings with Rory Burns 52 and Denley 74. Ben Stokes was a bit unlucky to miss out on 100, making 91, and then Butler made 43 and Pope 29. So it was not a bad overall batting effort from England to get through 353 in the first innings, right? But when it came to the way New Zealand started, they had slipped to a little bit of a precarious position. They were 4 for 127 when Kane Williamson got out. But then the middle and lower middle order of New Zealand had their own ideas, because first Nichols and Watling took them to 197 when Nichols was dismissed. But then we all seem to forget that, because from then on it was Watling's show, because Watling made a double hundred. He's the first Kiwi fully designated keeper to make a double hundred, right? He was well supported by Colin de Grant, who made 65. And then Mitchell Santner and him, like literally between these three people, they batted a whole day out, if I'm not wrong. And they took New Zealand to 615 for 9. And that meant, England were really having an uphill task. And they did not really fare well on the fourth evening. They were 55 for 3. And they were really looking down the barrel on the fifth day. Even though New Zealand lost Trent Boult to an injury, Wagner carried the day and he took 5 for. And basically New Zealand romped home to victory in the after tea. So that was a very, very good, very interesting test match. I don't know, Giri, how much of it you were able to catch?
It's too early for me, man. I couldn't get up so early to catch this, but I saw the scorecard on Cricinfo, and I saw BJ Watling making a double century, and I wasn't surprised at all. Typical grinding innings from him.
Mm-hmm.
And also Santner, Mitchell Santner. I think he's really developing himself into a proper all-rounder now, if ever there was any doubt in anybody's mind. To score 100 down the order. This New Zealand, I think they have so many utility cricketers, right? So they have so many bowlers who can bat and so many batsmen who can bowl, and then there are others who do both, basically. So New Zealand test team I think it's very well balanced. And even Colin de Grandhomme, I think he batted so well, and then covering for Trent Boult, right? So he took on the load of bowling extra overs, didn't concede any runs, right? So, but New Zealand it's all fine with New Zealand, but what's happening with England? What's happening to Joe Root? Another failure. He didn't score at all. He didn't score well. What's happening to somebody like Joss Butler? All these top batsmen who were having such a good time leading up to the World Cup, as well as just after that. What's happening to these guys? Is there a dip? Is it natural? Do you think? What's happening here?
I think they are in some sort of a rebuild phase as well. New coach, new thought process and everything. But I think definitely Joe Root has had a very fallow year, because by his standards, he averages I think under 25. And I saw a shocking statistic that this year Jack Leach averages better than him, right? That's a very shocking statistic when it comes to somebody like Joe Root's caliber. But unfortunately, he's had a very low yield year. That can happen to any good batsman. When it comes to Butler, I thought, especially first innings, he made a useful 42. But in the second innings, he looked very indecisive, and he let one ball go, which was way too full to let go, and he was bowled, right, from Wagner. I think he was expecting a short ball, and Wagner really stumped him with that change. But nonetheless, indeed, there was not enough fight. Usually you expect that the England team will show a lot of fight. So down the order, I think Archer and Curran tried to replicate that, and they made a good 50 partnership to show what the top order could do.
Yeah.
But there again, it was unexpected that this is where England do well. Everybody chips in a little. They showed it also in the first innings here. So for me, it might be a one-off. It might be an aberration rather than anything more serious. Right?
Yeah.
And I think we can expect that they'll bounce back and perform strongly in the upcoming tests, especially with, maybe we hear Trent Boult may be out injured. That means this good bowling lineup will have one setback from New Zealand, and maybe they may give Lockie Ferguson a debut, Giri.
Yeah, I think he's long due. I really like him. He's a tearaway fast bowler. You should have one of them. Right?
Indeed.
Or maybe Mark Henry.
No, it's a good idea. Matt Henry might also take his place. Matt Henry himself has been waiting in the wings, so to say, right? But as is, you have this left arm variety in Wagner who sort of always whacks the ball in. And you have this, somebody like Colin de Grandhomme. His role can be very underrated but very useful in a lineup, because he did that in both the innings where he bowls, 20 odd overs each innings, gives 1.5 runs an over, and really keeps it tight. Maybe takes a wicket or two. I was reading somewhere, Colin de Grandhomme is one of the more successful test all-rounders currently, because, they mentioned a statistic. It's a weird one, but for a test batter who has an average more than 40, right, and takes at least 2 wickets in a test under the bowling average of 30. You know, when was the last time this happened?
Was it Chris Gaines?
No, no, no. You have to go like pre-Warriors. It was
Okay.
Aubrey Faulkner. There was a South African all-rounder who had these sort of stats.
Oh, okay.
Maybe at some point in his career, Gary Sobers had such a combination, they say. But you have to go way back. That's the interesting part, right? A batting average of more than 40, a bowling average under 30, and at least 2 wickets in a test. That's the criteria. So
Okay.
that was very interesting for me to read that this guy is so effective. It doesn't amount to, you don't think that this guy could be so effective, but look at it,
Mm.
right? How he has been used.
Yeah.
So that's like, the sum of parts being far greater than the individual. That's a typical New Zealand team for sure.
Yeah.
But they really deserve kudos for, sort of taking this old fashioned win, like hanging on, making sure they tire the opposition out, like this old school test match. So it gave me a lot of pleasure watching this test, right? So, yeah, let's really hope that the remaining tests are also crackerjacks in this series.
I
Right?
have a question for you, Ajit.
Tell me.
Do you ever sleep? Do you
Oh,
ever
yeah,
sleep
yeah.
at night?
No, I do. I do. I mean, look, the New Zealand test start at 11 p.m. our time. So
Yeah.
sometimes I catch a session before I go to bed. The other thing is I also watch some highlights.
Yeah, no, but I know that you also try to follow it as closely as you can live, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
so you had a match in New Zealand, and then you had one in Australia, and then you had one in the Indian subcontinent. So you basically covered for the next, like you said, 15 to 18 hours. So
Exactly.
amazing.
Well, I couldn't do it all, but I tried as much as I can. You're right.
Yeah, but this is a good period for Test
It's a
cricket
good
fans.
couple of
We
days
have a
for
lot
me
of
at
months
least
coming up.
as a
Yeah.
test match. Indeed. So now if you were to move on to the other news, right? Shahadat Hossain, the slightly controversial Bangladeshi bowler, is now banned for 5 years for assaulting Arafat Sunny Jr., another former international from Bangladesh, in a domestic cricket match. This is very unfortunate to hear. And we really hope, maybe this guy needs some help, maybe with his anger counseling or something, and he's given that, right? In a similarly not so nice news, we hear that Pakistan's Sana Mir and Australia's Sophie Molineux have taken a break from cricket for various reasons. I think Sana Mir took a break for sort of getting a bit of perspective, but Sophie Molineux has actually taken a break due to some mental fatigue. So we hear a lot of these coming up. Maybe she needs the break and also take some time off, get a bit more perspective. In the meantime, the good news on the same front, Nick Madinson, who had made himself unavailable, has decided to make himself available again in the Sheffield Shield in Australia. So that's a good news, right? Also, if you remember, we had talked about it a couple of months ago when PSL's 2019 edition started. IMG-Reliance, which was the broadcasting partner, had withdrawn due to some conflict between the two countries at that stage, India and Pakistan. So it looks like PCB will go ahead and sue IMG-Reliance over this. So another news on, we just keep an eye on it. We don't know how it will develop in the upcoming days, but very interesting. Also, we've been keeping an eye on the betting scandal that's unfolding in KPL, Karnataka Premier League. It looks like KSCA, the Karnataka State Cricket Association's treasurer, has come out and categorically said that until this investigation is completed, they will not host another edition of the KPL. That's a real pity, I would say. But maybe it's for the best. It's good to have the house cleaned up before you go ahead, I believe. Also, just as a matter of interest, in the recently concluded Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy match, I saw something really, really unique, Giri. So
Hmm.
this was the match between Rajasthan and Haryana had three leg spinners. I don't know if you ever have come across such a possibility. So the opening bowlers were Amit Mishra and Yashwendra Chahal, and the first change was Rahul Tewatia. So
Wow,
three leg spinners opening the bowling.
that's
Have
quite
you ever
something.
come across this?
No, I don't think so.
For those of our friends and fans who are listening, I would ask if you ever come across such a match in any level of, higher level of cricket, please do let us know. Maybe there have been club games and, other such examples, but in a higher level of cricket, maybe list A cricket, first class cricket, international cricket, has this ever happened that the first three bowlers in an innings are leg break bowlers? As a, not so successful member of the leg break union, it really, really filled my heart. So I was really happy to see that. So I thought I'll make a mention of it. Also, in other news, George Bailey, the former Australian captain and player, has been named Australian selector even while he's playing or winding up his first class career, one can say. So that's very good news. So they're trying to inject some fresh ideas into the setup even while one of the more seasoned cricketers has given a chance to do this. Moving on, if you were to look at the trivia section, So the question from previous episode was, who is the first Indian to take a T20I hat-trick? Just to put this in context, that was asked on the back of, Deepak Chahar taking a hat-trick. It was a bit of a red herring, Deepak Chahar, because the right answer is Ekta Bisht, the Indian women's cricketer who took a 3 for 16 versus Sri Lanka in 2012 already, right? And Arindam Saha, one of our keen followers and friends, has answered this correctly on Twitter. We really hope more and more new people also take a guess at the answer. I think DS Pati had taken a guess on Podbean earlier, where he asked, was it Yuzvendra Chahal? I remember saying no, take another go at it, right? So the trivia question from this episode is, which captain holds the record for the most innings victories? So we discussed a lot of innings victories this episode. So which captain really holds the record for the most innings victories in tests, right? Do get in touch with us to give us an answer to this question or share your thoughts, etc. So there are multiple ways you could do this. You could leave a comment on whichever podcast platform you use to listen, right? Apple, iTunes, Podbean, Acast, any of these. Or you could get in touch with us via Twitter, for example, at Armchair Cricket Pod, or using our Facebook page, or you could write into us at armchair.cricket@gmail.com. All of these are really nice ways to get in touch with us. And anytime you get in touch with us, it gives us a lot of fillip, knowing that we are reaching people out there, like-minded cricket fans and so on. So please do get in touch. With such a lot of cricket that we already discussed, there's a lot to discuss in the upcoming episodes, and we hope you do stay tuned in. Having said all that, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.